Welcome to My Personal Opinion. My name is JM, and, well, these are my opinions. Today I'd like to discuss week 2 of my Transcranial Magnetic Stimulation therapy, also known as TMS. TMS is utilized as a treatment for depression when traditional medications and conventional therapies just aren't working. If you've not seen my first video, it covers some basics of TMS, at least from my perspective and what I know, and it goes over my first week. So I'll post it here so that you can check it out. Please note that I'm not a doctor, nor do I even impersonate one, anywhere, ever, in any condition or form. The information I'm providing you is solely based on my own experiences and should never be considered medical advice. It is essential to consult with your healthcare professional for assistance and guidance. As I said before, I do have OCD, genuine OCD. I've been diagnosed as such. I've had about 3 days to think about TMS without TMS, both because Saturday and Sunday are the weekend and they don't do the therapy during the weekend. Also, we had Memorial Day, so it gave me about 3 days to consider my TMS experience, or maybe even overthink the experience. From an OCD perspective, I can say my biggest issue with TMS is the lack of objective feedback. There's no monitor or mechanisms outside of the subjective feelings about the changes in your depression. My brain just processes this as kind of guessing, and I have a hard time with that because it's guessing while you're messing with somebody, or specifically my brain. They are attempting to up the game in the future with employing MRI scans to make sure that they are hitting the targets, but at this phase, who knows when that's going to be available. Remember, they're finding this target by pulsing an area of your head, looking for the movement in your fingers, and estimating where the target is from there and how to move those pulses into the area that they want to reactivate. They say they have some wiggle room with TMS and generally get the location right, but as a technical person, somebody who's been in IT for as long as I have, we like data. I mean, we'd like feedback loops. We'd like the ability to know that we're getting whatever we're trying to do correct. So for me, it's really hard not to have something that says, yes, we're getting the right area. Yes, we're hitting the targets. Yes, things are happening. Something outside of just a subjective, how are you feeling today? So yeah, I recognize that's my OCD talking, but when OCD grabs an idea, it just doesn't let go. It's kind of like a dog trying to take your bacon. There's just no way to stop the hamster wheel. And, the hamster wheel in your brain, that's the O and the OCD. Remember, this is for depression. It's not here to silence my OCD mind, but the idea is to help me trim down the number of things my OCD focuses on, so it will indirectly help my OCD, but it won't actually fix it. We started week 2 on a Tuesday, as Monday was Memorial Day. The goal is a power number of 56. I'm not really completely familiar with the technical aspects of what that means, but we started the first week in the 30s. Now this week was started at 48. They're moving it about 2 points every day to try to get your brain used to it. This time I did feel a little soreness from the woodpecker, a little more than before. Thank goodness for that 20-second pause, because if it were just continuous, there's no way I would have been able to handle it. When we got to Wednesday, things did change a little bit. Before, it was just all at my temple, and for the first time, I felt this weirdness in my hand. It was almost as if my hand got a little weak and kind of moved a little on its own. You can have a cell phone and listen to things or read things while the TMS is going, but I had my phone in my right hand, and all of a sudden, as the pulses hit, as the was going on, my hand started to move on its own. It was just bizarre. Did ask the technician, I'm like, is this supposed to happen? And they're like, are you in pain? I'm like, no, not really. I'm a little sore, but not in pain. They're like, well, that's okay. So if I had put my arm down, the feeling went away. But any time of attempt to manipulate my arm was met with this kind of funky sensation. Thursday was a little bit more of the same, and of course they were still going up. But Friday, we were only about 2 points away from the target, and I felt the effect in both arms. So, now it's, I could move from one hand to another in Wednesday and Thursday, but Friday, both hands were doing it, and it really was uncomfortable. Not so much like a pain situation, but it's just like, oh my, my hands are moving, and they're becoming weak. And again, in all situations, it was only happening when the pulses were firing. And as soon as the pulses stopped and you were back in that 20-second pause, your hands were back to normal. And laying them down, that stopped the feelings as well. So again, I keep bringing it up with the tech, and they're saying as long as it's not pain, you're good. And since we're now going to start at 56, the full power next week, that's what I'm going to be feeling for the next few weeks until we get to July 17th. So I hope we start seeing some improvement mentally. As of now, all I'm seeing is that I'm tired. It's I get good night's sleep, which is nice, but there are times where I'm just sitting down in a chair and just have to have a nap. So they say that some of this is because of the fact they're disrupting brain activity. But wow, I mean, it's an interesting moment. It's a good and a bad, because finally being able to get a good 8 hours sleep is definitely exciting, but just the times where I'm just flat out tired and don't even process things, just kind of just meh, like a tired mind kind of thing. So what's next? Of course, we're going into week 3. One of the things we are still discussing is ketamine. I actually have another appointment on Tuesday to discuss possibly going with full-blown ketamine. What they've been apparently working on is called Spravato. Ketamine itself is not patentable, and pharmaceutical companies kind of grabbed a piece of the ketamine molecule and patented that component and turned it into a nasal spray. The FDA approved it explicitly for depression, but it's not as powerful. There has been a lot of anecdotal comments that I've gotten that they have had much better success with the IV ketamine. So a lot of stuff going on there. The idea is that, TMS is slower, takes longer to respond, but ketamine is faster, gives you a more immediate response. So kind of looking at it as a side-by-side component, getting some immediate relief from the ketamine, but having long-term relief from the TMS. So that's where we're at. Dealing with insurance companies. Funny part is the insurance companies dragging their feet on the Spravato because they were trying to say initially that I hadn't had depression enough. And according to somehow the records that the insurance company had, I was only depressed for a year. And of course, my medical team is trying to say, no, this has been for at least 10 years. So infighting, and then some arguments. And then if I do go with the ketamine, it's expensive. I think I'm going to be looking at like $250 per hit. And it's 2 times every week for at least a month. And then they have follow-up where you can go maybe down to once a week or once every other week. So if I did go with the full ketamine, that's insurance just doesn't pay for it. So will it help? I have no clue. I've never been on a clinical ketamine. I will say that I had an ER experience where I had a diabetic episode, and they dosed me with ketamine. It was an experiment to avoid using morphine. I was in a lot of pain, and so they used ketamine. The difference is that when they did it in the ER, they just dumped the ketamine into my system, and that was it. You had the ketamine, and that's it, and you had to experience whatever you experienced. And it was a kind of a negative experience. My eyes were batting back and forth. I really felt uncomfortable. It kind of left me in a dark room all by myself with a bunch of beeping and clinical equipment, or I guess ER equipment. It was a very unpleasant experience. I've been told repeatedly by several folks that this is a bit different, that that's not just a full dump. They drip it in and they can control it and make sure that, if things go a little awry, that they manage the situation. Don't just dump me in a room and say good luck. So a little nervous, a little concerned, but if I'm going to move forward in life and protect my family and be a good either future employer or whatever, or employee or whatever, I need to have some of this stuff unlocked from my head. So, some upcoming stuff that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing a video on my OCD. I'm going to be very raw. I'm not going to have any scripting or anything. I'm just going to talk about it, kind of explain what OCD is like for me, and talk about kind of what I feel the difference is between what I like to call Hollywood OCD and genuine OCD, and explicitly my type of OCD, that's OCD thinking. Also, as a technologist, I'm going to be starting some videos on technology. Again, that's why I call it my personal opinion. It kind of opens the topics up. I really want to cover artificial intelligence. And if you think OCD is bad, wait until you hear about how an OCD mind processes the advancements and activities in artificial intelligence. And for those of you who will know the reference, I sometimes wonder if it's time for a orange Catholic Bible moment. And for those of you who don't know, you should read Dune. Dune by Frank Herbert is a great book. The movie that came out is pretty good. So, but anyway, those are a lot of the different topics that are going to be coming soon. If you like what you're hearing, if you want to hear more from my perspective, please like and subscribe. I'd like to get out to as many people as possible, like anybody would, but I'm hoping that, especially on some of my mental health discussions, I can reach out to those that have some questions and hear from a technologist perspective, because I did go after TMS before I decided to try ketamine. So, which is, some people said, well, obviously, because you're a technologist, you're going to think technology is going to save the world. So there you have it. That's my personal opinion. I really appreciate the time and wish everybody a fantastic day. And this is JM. I'm out.